All right. Well, hello to yet another episode of Hope for Resistance live streaming. Yay, us. Our technical director, Aaron. My name is Sarah, and this is my son, Aaron, and hi, we are here every week talking about all things hopeful and all things resistance. We want you to know what's going on in the world, and we want to frame it in the light of how do you remain hopeful in the batshit craziness of American politics, as well as reframing some of the talking points that are out there on both sides, and also giving you, how do we say that? Giving you a perspective on so many things. Non-stop, yeah, non-stop stuff to talk about. And so today is Sunday, June the 15th, day after No King's Day. And it's also Father's Day, so happy Father's Day. Oh, bowling when nobody was there. Okay, that's like gold. That is the bomb. Well, and Larry certainly appreciated you. Yeah, that was cool. No, I think we have to be careful. Performative seems to be the word of the day. Have definitely seen a lot of that on social media in reference to yesterday, and I
Oh,
think,
I was muted this whole time. Go ahead. It's okay.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's all. No, we have to start over.
Oh, now we gotta do it all over again. Okay.
Right. Hi, and welcome to Hopeful Resistance. It's a podcast that Aaron, my son, and I do every week, and we're doing it a little early today. We talk about all things hopeful and all things resistant. And oh, Josh, thanks, Josh. Yeah, Josh told us. Oh, you said thank you.
I did.
Too much technology for this old woman.
Yeah.
All right. Things hopeful, all things resistance. And today is Sunday, June 15th. Happy Father's Day and
Thank you.
happy day after All Kings Day.
We were
No
talking.
King.
Yeah, we were talking about how I went bowling this morning. I was over here blabbing on about how there was only three of us, three families, and there's 24 bowling lanes.
And
So
that's gold.
yeah,
When you take your family out, it's just like a solo party, right?
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it really was.
Well,
And we only bowl for an hour, and the kids they use the ramp. So like we are not even able to get through like three full games. You know, like bowling's supposed to be like
what's
do what? Yeah. So I don't know. These did not exist whenever we went bowling and whenever I was a kid. So
the idea of that? Which is
I guess as you know, the world has become more DEI. That they've
helpful, helpful to people. Oh no, not
oh
that.
my god.
Not helpful, please.
But yeah, so one of the ways that they found that they could be more inclusive for people with disabilities, for example, people in wheelchairs, is probably kind of difficult to bowl, was that they introduced ramp bowling. So it's a ramp that you set up and then you can put the ball in it and you push it and it rolls down
The kids can toddle up to this ramp, put the bowl on it. They
and
set the
then
ramp where they want it to
yeah,
go,
and then they
and then
push it.
just
Yeah. And
well,
it's
hell,
meant for people with disabilities,
my
but it's
my
great.
bowling. Yeah, I was gonna say my bowling skills might necessitate my using that.
So yeah, that's actually a good point. I'm just really bad at bowling, so I use the ramp. No, me and Elizabeth, we used to play with bumpers, and then as we did it more, like because we try to go like once a week now, we just regular bowl.
Did you know that I used to be in a bowling league?
Yeah, I remember that because we used to go
Yeah.
bowling a lot.
Yep. it was fun.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think we started talking about that. Oh, thank you for making the phone call to Larry. And then we started talking about performative things.
Yes.
Can we talk about that for just a moment?
Absolutely.
So I had an interesting discussion this morning. Of course, 99.9% of my interesting discussions occur on social media, but it was interesting that I had somebody intimate that yesterday 11 point some million, let's just say 10 million
Yeah.
people showing up for a protest was performative. So the actual description of performative is, dramatic or exaggerated, or what is that? Dramatic action.
Right.
And I'm open to being wrong. I do understand how performative can be a bad thing, but I'm open to being wrong. I'm pretty sure 11 million people showing up is dramatic, and they're showing up for dramatic reasons.
Yes.
So to say it's performative is just yet another way to be dismissive, but I don't even think it sticks.
Yeah. Well, and I think I saw you mention this on Threads, and you summed it up the way that I would, is like, yes, of course it was. That's the point. That is
What's a
literally the point.
Yeah.
And I do find it amusing that someone would try to use the point of protesting as a tool to be dismissive of it. But I guess
Well,
these are the kind of people that probably don't protest even whenever they disagree with like Biden or Obama. So
well, this is I don't know if this is actually a good example. I think it's called Occam's razor, where this could go either way,
I think it's
but
Occam. Yeah, Occam's. There we go.
and I'm again open to being wrong here, but when we talk about the fact that when Biden was president or before him, Obama, before Trump, Obama was president, we didn't have these kind of protests. The argument could be made that liberals are just a bunch of agitators, right? But I would also agree with what you just said, that I think the thing that separates liberals or Democrats or that group that's
Yeah.
over here versus over here, I hate to say us versus them, is that we believe in taking action, and more so now than ever, I think. But there were huge protests right after Trump got into office the first time as well.
Right.
And so what you just said rings true to me, is that, they don't care, but I just don't think the hate is sustainable. I don't think that we're protesting based on hate and fear.
Yeah, I mean, and we've definitely talked about this more than a few times, that I think what motivates a lot of people to be out there now is mostly outrage, probably more than anything. I mean, whenever I was you posted the video, and whenever I was out there yesterday, there were signs for all kinds of things, but I mean, there were signs like hands off Social Security. There were signs of Veterans Against Fascism, and I did find it interesting that a lot of the rhetoric out there is like pro-American, anti-Trump rhetoric.
I thought it was fascinating, the variety of signs as well. What I thought was so interesting on top of that is, again, because of you, so it's your fault. I'm trying to have more conversations with people that I clearly know from the beginning of the conversation will in no way change their perspective, but you've taught me that I'm not actually doing it for them. I'm doing it for the people who read the comment.
If someone is trying to have, you've actually also inadvertently had a good faith discussion with someone.
I did, and that was very shocking, and it actually turned out quite well. But
yes,
the point I'm trying to make here is that the biggest comment I saw after the performative comment is that they don't even know what they're out there protesting. I'm like, did you look at the video?
No, there's no way.
Are different. Like you said, hands off Social Security.
Yes.
I'm against fascism. Refund or pay out the funding to these programs that you took away from.
Well, and I will say, I will say this. I can see. I could see how someone could watch that video and see Trump's and see, like, Veterans Against Fascism and be dismissive, because over the last 10 years, that word has lost quite a bit of its
Well, I also think you're
power.
making the assumption that a lot of people who would be dismissive of it don't know what it means.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you
Let's
there's
be
if
honest, they threw out fascism and socialism and all that, communism, that Harris was all of those things.
oh
So
yeah,
clearly,
and that's the thing, that's the projection that is always so amusing to me, is that is like right now the president is behaving like an authoritarian fascist, and then anytime you go online, the first thing they do is point fingers at, like, see how fascist the left is, and it's like
right?
the amount of projection is just shocking.
And I mean, I was even again back to that conversation about the woman who was, talking about Jeffersonianism. It was like I go back, you go back point by point, and they're like, "Oh, so you just think you're so smart because you have all these." I had a woman say that to me. Well, you just think you're so smart because of those points, but you left it. People on the left are blah blah. And I'm like, okay,
Oh,
you didn't even address my points. I mean, if you're
I
gonna make
I
my points,
actually man, I was talking with somebody about the reason why there's so much of an issue, I guess, now with the way people converse with one another, is because anybody that supports the administration, is kind of, rather than starting from a fact-based point where they're looking at the information first and then formulating an opinion. Instead, what they're doing is they're starting at an ideological place. So they're hearing information, and then they're just turning to see, what does Trump think.
okay. And again, the retired behaviorist in me is just leaping like a gazelle up to say,
Yeah,
let's remember that this entire administration's platform is based on hate and fear.
yeah,
Entire platform is based on hate and fear. We hate anything that's other. We hate anything that is not us, anything that's not white, anything that's not Christian. And so I think sometimes the
so many
so many.
things. I could hear it. I could.
Like, where do I even go now?
Yeah, we both
You
do
said
that.
last week, it's like my brain short circuits. The the beauty, the horrific beauty of the Trump platform and the Trump personality cult and anything relative to Trumpism is that at this point there is no rational thought required, because if it's not me, I hate it.
Right.
If it makes me feel uncomfortable, I hate it
Right.
or I fear it. So honestly, Democrats are always having to explain why something's good or why this is good, or let's collaborate, or let's talk, or let's work this out, which takes
Yes.
time and energy. Back to what we've said since the very first day we started recording these things: fast beats smart.
Well, and I think that works even better because of, like I was saying, because they're so ideological, right? So, for example, and this was the example I used in the conversation, when I was having it, was like, let's say that someone's accused of being a pedophile. Okay, and I know it's an extreme example, but let's say they are. The very first thing that MAGA is going to do is they're going to go see, what does Trump think about that person, regardless of whatever evidence there is that proves that person is in fact a pedophile. They're going to go see, well, what does Trump think? Oh, Trump likes him, then he's not. There's no way he's a pedophile. And it
Well,
doesn't matter what evidence you have. There's just no way.
I'm not going to disagree with that, in that the sycophantic mindset and the, as you say, the mental, sir, I call them Cirque du Soleil mental gymnastics that are occurring right
Yeah.
now about Trump's original stand about immigration. And now it's like, oh, wait,
Yes. And then he turned it. And
he deporting the worker. Oh, wait, all of the people we've deported are hard work.
I know that you're not on Twitter, or
I can't.
X, or whatever you want, whatever people call it, but it was shocking to watch that happen in real time.
I can't even imagine. And I'm just telling you, my emotional bandwidth
Yeah.
can't. I admire you. I don't know.
It,
I don't know how
it was unreal to see it. Like it was
it
like
is mental gymnastics on a Olympic scale.
yeah. There's no other way to explain it. There's just no other way. And I mean, and I'll say this: you did have some, some MAGA influencers or politicians come out against that, but it was the vast majority of people were like
Because the thing about
in support.
authoritarianism, fascism, uh, personality cults, I mean, whatever, wherever someone falls in the scale of supporting the current administration, you have to toe the line.
Yes.
Now, however you do that, the mental gymnastics, or oh well, he didn't mean it, he was just joking, or
Oh,
a-
that
a- and
one.
I also think we have to be careful too. I'm not going to be the bad guy here and say you can't change your mind.
Right. Well,
I am
and I think
going.
it's I think that that's one thing that people get lost on sometimes, and this is regardless of political affiliation. That like if you believe something, you have to always believe that something, even if new information would,
Exactly.
disprove your point.
And by way of example, I can tell you, when the memories on Facebook pop up for me from 10 years ago, I I am worried that my face will freeze in permanent cringe mode.
Yeah,
Some of the shit.
yeah, and then these podcasts will be like you half talking because your face is stuck. You're just
I
nodding
mean,
on the
I
other end.
can't delete those posts fast enough, and sometimes I think, oh, I should keep it up as a penance for being such a
Yeah,
cat.
yeah,
No, I don't want those to ever be seen in the light of day again. Now, so back to, okay, so Trump absolutely can change his mind. But I think the issue is, how do we in this moment see all of this happening and move through it with not just hope, but with resilience? I think the thing to remember is the tide turns. The tide always turns.
yeah.
And sometimes it turns fast, sometimes it turns slow. I do believe that, from what I've seen, more than ever, prior Trump supporters are questioning
Yeah,
them.
yes. So I I frequent conservative spaces. I don't I sometimes I it depends on the space, right? Like if it's like, for example, if like our conservative, then the way that I might engage there is much more tactful, because they'll just ban you. Like if you're dissent at all, and you're
I
not like
can't even
question.
do Reddit. You've
Yeah.
done Reddit forever, and I just am like,
Yeah.
Reddit and Twitter to me are like,
Yeah. Well, and Reddit is a very hardcore left leaning space. Um, and then with some conservative spaces, like conservative is probably the only conservative space on Reddit. But there's some other ones on there, like with various
it's
names, some red pill spaces.
people are on there to get you. People are on there for the gotcha.
Yeah, 1,000%.
1,000%. They're on there to get you. So,
Yeah,
um,
and Twitter's the same way. Like people
I
on
would
Twitter
love
are
for
always
you,
trying to.
yeah, I'd like for you to talk just for a minute about your experience at the protests
Yeah,
yesterday.
absolutely.
I couldn't be there. Clearly, I'm in another country right now, but you
I
were
was
kind enough to
pumping
send me
out
on.
those videos.
You were, and I think the two that I posted, you've got, between the two of them, you've got almost like 7,000 views on those.
Yeah,
So
there was a lot of.
people are hungry for that, I think. So tell me about your experience, what you saw, how did it make you feel?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do like a quick rundown, but like when I I've not I've done a lot of other types of like I guess protest movements, but even in like Trump 1.0, I wasn't nearly as active as I am now. So being out there, my
He didn't quite know how to mess things up as well as he
yeah,
does.
yeah. And I'll be the first to say that I was I was one of the people that was like, "Oh, it's gonna be fine." He was worthless in the first term. He didn't get anything done. Granted, he hasn't really gotten anything done this time because they're still struggling to pass the big beautiful bill.
I
But
think it depends on how you measure that. He's
yeah,
gotten a whole done, just nothing productive.
right.
Anyway,
But
back
so I'm out there, and I mean, whenever you go out to these things, you're gonna there. I don't care what people say. There's just a lot of anxiety, right? There's a lot of anxiety because you don't know what it's going to be like. You don't know what kind of people are going to be out there. You know, you hear mostly safe, and I, you know, from what you see, it is mostly safe because I watched a lot of live streams for the LA protest, for example, and things are. It's like a pretty big chill fest of people just marching and chanting and like snow, you know.
disappointed that there was no line dancing in Arlington.
Yeah, I know.
I know you were too.
The but you know, whenever I first got out there, the crowd wasn't super big because people were just showing up. Because I got out there before 10. It was supposed to start at 10.
Right.
But there were already people out there, and I loved it. You know, of the things I loved the most were a fuck ton of American flags. It was insane how many American flags
That
there
was
were.
insane, and that made my heart so happy
Yes.
because I think that it destroys the narrative, the MAGA narrative that
Yeah.
not Americans out
Yes,
there.
and there were still, you know, Mexican flags. There were those cool ones. I don't care what people think. I think they're cool. That are like the U.S. Mexican flag. Like it's like one big U.S. Mexican. It's like both flags and one flag. Have you seen those?
Seen that.
Yeah, I think they're neat. So there were some of those, you know, and there were people flying them right side up. There were people flying them upside down, like the distress. I mean, there was.
Write that down. We got to talk about that because that was a huge topic of conversation yesterday. Okay, go on though.
Yeah, and then again the chance. It was so funny. I was telling Elizabeth that I had like freaking protest chants stuck in my head all day yesterday because they're like never ending, right? It's like once one kind of dies down, like, and there's people out there with like posters, and they
I just
have.
kept saying, "This is what democracy looks
Yes.
like."
Yeah, and then you chant it back, and I'm gonna get it stuck in my head again. There was one that was like no
Oh,
fascist, no what is it?
is this the one that it's a diagonal that the
Yeah.
top half is? I love
Yeah,
that.
I think those are really cool. That I actually there was if you go watch some live streams of the LA protests, there's a lot of those flags, and I feel like there's more American flags in like the live streams than you'll ever see in like the pictures online.
Wonder what the
Um,
flag code though says about that.
the,
Although you know the flag code never expected there to be a
well,
nationwide protest against the current
yeah,
administration.
well, and the thing about flag code is whenever flag code really only applies to government, right? Like, so you have to follow flag code if you're flying government flags. But like, if you're a civilian, you can really just do whatever you want, and people don't realize that because the First Amendment protects you, right? If you for a citizen, the flag code is more like guidelines that, you know, if you want to be respectful of the flag,
Tell you, I,
follow it.
I get nuts. I feel unhinged when I see people wearing American flag clothing,
Yeah.
like shorts and bikinis, and it rubs me the wrong way. However, it rubbed me the wrong way because I thought that it was like against some unspoken law, but I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Flag code only applies to like state. Well, I don't know about state, but it really only applies to federal buildings there's like a strict adherence to how the flag is to be
Well, this
presented
is one
and
of, I
all
mean, I
that.
guess now is a good time as any. One of the big discussions we got into was about, I got into with some people in a group I'm in online about flying the flag upside down. And I'm like, okay, first of all, let's just start with freedom of speech. If you can burn the damn thing, you can fly it upside down.
Yeah.
That you're not flying it upside down like putting Jesus upside down on the cross is like supposed to be super
Yeah.
sacrilegious.
Sacrilegious. Yeah.
This is a symbol of distress, and that's what that's all about. So because somebody
I
a
still
few people
get.
you know
Sorry.
that you sent me where there were some flags upside down. So
Yeah.
I just want to shoot that thought
Yeah,
out
well,
there.
and I mean, for me, okay, so whenever I still get like a little annoyed because I feel like, okay, you know, if it whenever you're flying the flag upside down for distress, again, if we're talking like flag code, like the distress is like some kind of emergency, right? Which we could argue we're,
Yeah.
yes, we're in an
Well,
emergency.
you
That's
could
why you,
argue that the U.S. is in distress. I
right?
agree with you. So I'm not a big fan of it, but I get it,
Yeah.
right? It's well, I mean, clothing to me is just disrespectful.
Yeah, there were a lot of people in clothing. I don't know if you would like that. There were a lot of
You know
people.
what? I looked at it at this point. Let me just say, at this point, as long as I'm not going to say that,
It's all right. The thing, whatever.
as long as it doesn't have Trump's face on it, I don't care what you
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Well, unless it's the unless it's mocking him, I get you. I mean, you know, I have a shirt. I put it up on Threads before that's like, you know, Veterans Against Trump, because I swore
Yeah,
to support and defend the Constitution against all
you
enemies,
can
foreign and domestic.
buy
And
you a free for that one.
yeah, well, and yeah, there were a lot of people that liked that shirt. There were a lot of other people that were wearing, like, other veterans that were wearing similar shirts, like Vets Against Trump shirts.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, really, it did nothing more than just like make me. This is gonna sound so bad, but I don't care. It just makes you kind of feel validated. Like, it makes you kind of feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. Like, it's not just me.
Honestly, I want to pause right there because I saw a bunch of people say this on social media, and also the people that I know who went, that they felt validated and they also felt bad for saying it. So I'm not quite sure. I think behaviorally we think, oh, I should feel bad for thinking that I was alone, or for not thinking that my fellow, human uh, compatriots are going to be feeling the same way. I don't think there's any reason to feel bad about that.
Yeah, well, and I guess it's more like, um, and I think it's because the right has done a really good job of weaponizing that, like, that feeling, right? Where it's like, oh, like, you're just seeking validation whenever, like, you should be like self-assured on what.
Echo chamber. You're just in an echo chamber.
Yes. Yeah, and God knows we've covered that. And I mean, and I guess in a way, yeah, I'll say this. I'm not going to a protest looking for people that disagree. Of course I want there to be other people that agree with me. That's the whole point, is to be out there with other people.
In this moment, because the right has done such a good job, in my mind, of weaponizing the media, weaponizing, even talk shows, weaponizing the news. I
Now
mean,
we've had a whole episode on that.
had a whole episode on that. I'm so disappointed with how, the news has failed to cover the numbers and have diminished the actual numbers. So I think that going out there, the number of people who said I went out there expecting 100 and there were 5,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, the video you showed me at the beginning, I was like, oh, there's not a lot of people. And then you just kept sending me videos, and every video, it was
It
like
was bigger
hundreds.
and bigger and bigger.
Huge.
Yeah, there were, and I tried to, because I realized I was taking it from one side of the street, which is the side that the courthouse was on, which is like where the official thing was. But I was also trying to, like, that's why I crossed the street, because I wanted you to see that there's like a whole other side of the street that's just as packed.
It was insane. And I think all of us, the people who went, but also the people like me who couldn't go,
Yeah,
the energy of seeing uh short circuit,
I know.
energy of seeing fellow Americans. I'll be honest, I could not care less if Trump stays in office. I'll be honest. Would it be nice if he was impeached, or if he left, or whatever?
Right.
Got called to heaven, whatever. Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And yet, I want to emphasize that I could not care less whether or not he stays in office. What I care about is what the protests were about. We have the rule of law, we have processes, we have procedures, we have ways of doing things. We have a fucking constitution.
Yeah, that's the big thing I think that gets lost a lot, is like, if you go on Twitter, or if you go on, if you watch any like left leaning content at all, right? And um, the right is trying to paint it like that the left just wants open borders and lawlessness, and it's so like not at all what people feel like. They're missing the anger, right? Like most people are angry because we're just the way that we're conducting like the ICE raids, the way that we're deporting people, that none of that is in accordance with the law as it's written. So that's what people are actually mad about.
You know, but there's a name for that argument, and I never can remember. It's an exaggeration. So I say to you, you know, Aaron, I really would like it if we just had a habit around the house of doing X, Y, Z, and then you're like, oh, well, you just want to control everything.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not quite. I guess it is. I guess it is a straw man. Yeah, because they're trying to. Yeah, because they're trying to basically formulate our argument so it's easier for them to attack it.
Yeah, well, it's so much easier for me to argue. I mean, again, so for many people, yesterday was absolutely anti-Trump. Yay for all those people. But I think it was anti-fascism. It was anti-authoritarianism.
Yes.
And some of the crazy arguments that I've even seen come out about, you mentioned immigration. Well, you know, Biden and Obama deported XYZ number of people. And I'm like, okay, you just made my argument for me. They deported more people
Yeah.
legally.
Well,
They deported more people following the process. How many people, and this is where I think it's hard to be hopeful. You just see this batshit craziness of people being, I have had people laugh at me for saying that immigrants have been snatched off the streets. I got videos, folks.
yeah.
They're snatched right off the street. And then how much money goes into all the lawsuits, all you ship them to a different country and now they have to come back.
Did you see that they brought back Abuelo Garcia? Yeah. I said Abuelo. Yeah, Abrego Garcia. Yeah. You know what? I'm glad. I think, but there's again, there's so many things.
I was gonna say that's an entire episode.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
But yes, I did see where they brought him back.
Yes. But remember, they couldn't do it, right? They couldn't do it before. Now they're doing it.
What did it say? What was that? That the White House, the fucking White House, issued this snarky little rewrite of a New York Times article that said he's never coming back. Hate and fear.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. I'm just telling you, hate and fear is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Astonished at how MAGAs are still hateful and angry.
Yeah, I mean, if you go spend any time on Truth Social, again,
no.
I know I know you're not going to.
I have an account.
Yeah.
I have an account. There.
Like I said, for me,
my emotional bandwidth to deal with MAGA is like,
yeah, and for me, like we've talked about before, I mean, I want to know what it is that they're thinking and saying, because I like to cross check it on what I think, right?
Yes, and I will say on Facebook, our Hopeful Resistance page, I will go to what I call red pages. I will go to the red pages and scroll. I will scroll through comments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the bandwidth to engage.
Yeah.
Because the minute you quote a source for accurate information, they vacate the premises.
They disappear. They don't want to. They don't want your fake news. Okay, get out of here with your fake news.
And I'm like, okay, let's talk about the military parade.
I wanted to just a final thought. There were points. Yeah.
We have a final thought.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But for the King's Day protest, the one thing that I think was more than anything was just like there is a lot of like emotional like you get really like you feel in that validation is so extreme that like I didn't like cry, but it was like it chokes you up a little bit, kind of feeling like democracy's not democracy's not done. It's not done. Okay, we're still doing it.
And honestly, I think you've hit something absolutely on the head. One of the things, there were so many things accomplished. yesterday, I think the liberals, Democrats united, the organization of these protests was off the charts
Yeah.
good. People came together, they were validated. But I also think the other thing is, when we talk about hopeful resistance, I say it all the time, hope is action. Hope isn't always how you feel. You have to be focused on outcomes, blah, blah, blah. But I would be naive and, quite frankly, idiotic if I didn't acknowledge that there is an emotional component to hope.
Yeah.
When you went yesterday, your heart, your pitcher of hope was refilled. Democracy's not dead. There's other people that actually care.
Yeah.
I'm not alone in this fight. I'm not raging against a machine by myself.
Right.
So now imagine 11 million people felt like that.
Yeah. And I mean, and there is one other argument, because I do want to talk about the military parade, but there's one other argument that we hadn't touched on yet that I want to kill, which is people are like, imagine going to a No King's Day protest and being able to do it, but if if we actually had a king, you wouldn't have been able to do that. And in my head, I'm like, you're complete.
Wait. That
Have you
was
not?
an argument.
Yeah. So this is the MAGA talking point against the No Kings protest, which is essentially that, imagine like these people are protesting No King's Day, but they're able to do it. So how do we have a king? And I'm like, the thing is, we don't, but we have someone that wants to be a king, which is why we're actively
Like,
we're protesting, so he knows that we're not going to let him be one.
because typically when you don't want a king, you try to preempt the king
Yes.
from being king.
Yeah.
And so we're going to protest no king so that we don't get a king who would stop us from
Yes.
protesting.
Yes.
You know, they come so close. It's like the circle thing. They get around to this.
Get nearly there every time. Every time they're almost.
No, just
And stop it short.
not gonna do it. No, the only thing I want to talk about, and we could, I mean, like always, we can just bounce all over the place. One of the things about the military parade that was a bit of a shock, not a shock, as a behaviorist, retired behaviorist, I'm always so fascinated with what little truths or little behaviors people clamp onto.
Yeah.
And the biggest one that I've seen, and mostly on threads I've seen it, the conversation about the marching. I'm like, so let me frame this. Just give me a second. Let me frame this,
go ahead.
because I have some thoughts about this. So some of the comments that I'm seeing is like, oh, they were so sloppy and they weren't marching in order. And I'm like, you say this like it's a bad thing. If they were marching in precision like North Korea or China or Russia, that would not be good.
Yeah.
That we don't want them marching. Now, whether it was deliberate or whether not, nobody knows what was in the minds or what happened before that. But the actual fascination and the clamping on that conversation about whether they did it on purpose or whatnot. I'd like for you, as a retired, or as is it not retired?
As a veteran, a Marine Corps veteran, I use that term because, once a Marine, always a Marine. Right. Really, people really hate whenever you say ex-Marine. I actually don't really care for ex-Marine either, but either way. So, and I touched on this briefly, I think, on a thread that you put up about it. So, whenever you march, you have the cadence caller, right? So you have someone that stands out to the side of the formation, and he calls out the march as you're marching. It's like left, right, left, but for the Marine Corps especially, it's more sing-song. I am not going to imitate it. If you want to see people do it, I mean, I can do it because I used to march troops too. But if you want to see it, there's tons of it online, and there are some people that are way better at cadence calling than me. Okay. But in order to cadence call, you can only really cadence call in an environment that's not like super loud. That's not the cadence caller can be easily heard. Oh, everybody, we're gonna have to pause because my daughter's on the phone.
Oh, hell yeah!
So I will. I'm gonna set up. We're gonna idle for a little bit. Yeah,
that's right. We'll be.
Yeah. Okay. Be right back.
Okay.
Okay. And we're back. Thank you,
And
everyone, for your patience.
yeah, so we took a break so that you could talk to your daughter who is away at National Guard boot camp.
Yes, she's in Columbia, South Carolina at Fort Jackson. I don't know like what her unit mascot is or any of that stuff. I know that she's like 3rd Battalion, 39th. I don't know what. The Army is so much bigger than
Yeah.
the Marine Corps that I have no idea how all of it would like translate to the Marine Corps. But I know that the experiences that she's having are very similar to the experiences I had. I remember you had all my letters, and I remember like the first letters are all like, "This is miserable. I fucking hate it. It's the
What was I thinking?
This was the stupidest thing I ever." And then like the longer you're there, it doesn't get. I put it to her like this just now when I was talking to her. I go, I'm glad because she's already doing better than she was last week. Last week she was really emotional. She's very upset. She was like, "You weren't kidding. This fucking sucks. I miss you guys. I miss being home." And then on top of all the homesickness, she's also, PTing her ass off, having to sit through hours and hours of lectures. And
We think teenagers are so busy, but you know what? The physical training itself, your body is exhausted, your mind is exhausted, and that's the point of boot camp is to break you down and
yeah,
build you back.
yeah. And so she's doing way better this week, and which we were really glad to hear because we were worried about her. She's doing much better. And then on top of that, what I said to her was like, yeah, I think you realize that things don't get easier. You just kind of get better. Like you improve, and in that improvement, it feels easier, but it's not really easier. It's just that you've gotten better.
Thing you were doing a week or two ago, you're just doing better at.
Yes. So she's doing good. She's in a good mood. She's in good spirits. She got her charger. We sent her a charger because her charger broke. We sent her a new charger.
Oh well, that just made the whole life like perfect.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, she gets her phone. Just so we're clear, you don't get your fucking phone in Marine Corps boot camp. What I would have given to have a phone in boot camp.
I mean, didn't you guys like had to go to a payphone or you had a?
The only
Did we? You when you were in boot camp?
Yeah. So the only phone call that you get in Marine Corps boot camp, she got this phone call too, which is basically just the call where you're like, "Hello,
I'm here."
yeah, hello, this recruit."
You have like there's a script you had to follow.
Yeah, you're like, "Recruitment Shaw, I have made it to MCRD San Diego. This is my address. Blah 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 blah." And then Elizabeth got that call like I guess now 2 weeks ago, and then we talked to her last week, and then we talked to her this week. But man, and she's sending letters, so we got her letter. And she's like, whenever Dad, like in her letter, she's like, whenever Dad said to me that this was going to be the hardest thing I would ever do, I had no fucking idea that it was going to be this hard.
He wasn't kidding. How rude.
I thought he was just exaggerating.
You know what? I mean, I hate that it came that we couldn't like bring it into the show somehow.
Oh yeah.
Because, well, it's so integral to what we're talking about with democracy and with the military parade and what the military's for and what democracy is about. And I don't think I can say it enough. I want liberals and Democrats and people who are perhaps a little left of center to be sending their kids and to be going into the military, because we don't need a bunch of MAGA in the military who are more than happy to follow whatever the current leaders, the current president says versus the Constitution.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about that before we left, and it brings something to my mind. Whenever I had friends who were like, "Oh, I'm surprised that you're letting her join the military," and I go, "Well, first off, letting her, I mean, she turns 18 this year.
Right.
There comes a point as a parent where you just it's before, for us it was before 18. There comes a point where as a parent you have bestowed as much of your morals, your principles, your values on your children that all you can do is just hope that they follow what you've taught and shown them. And And then when they don't, especially as teenagers, it's more like corrective behavior, right? Because whenever they're little, right, it's about teaching them like, okay, we don't lie, we don't cheat, we don't steal. And then like
And you
once,
can, let's be honest, you can pick them up and physically move them away from something you
yes,
don't do.
right. And then once they're teenagers, you just,
Put your hand on the stove. I don't want you to fall down the stairs, so I'm going to physically.
yeah,
And then you don't do that with a 8, 9, 10, 12. And then you've got, she's 17, and then the next one is
15.
50.
He turned 16 this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you. Yeah.
But I know.
So many things.
But the thing that, sorry, we as always we derailed, but that's how we work. The thing that I told people is y'all need to understand that service to the country is not about who's president. It's about like love of nation, right? It's about like patriotism,
Right.
which the right has. We've talked about this and how angry it makes me that the right has been able to harness patriotism as like, oh, that as a right leaning principle, where there are left leaning patriots.
Weekend
Yeah.
kind of stuck it back to them about what patriotism really
Right.
is.
And that was another thing that made me feel so good, was like there, that it is a lot of like love of nation out there. It is a lot of like what I would call, I mean, well, not real, just what I would call patriotism. Because it's about the United States. It's about, what it is to be America and what our
I also
values should be.
I want to be super clear that it is exactly that reason that we have to have these conversations. Patriotism is not about your, excuse my French, which it's a little late for that now, I guess, your fucking political affiliation. Patriotism is about your love for country. Now, this is where we get bifurcated. I have had that Russ guy that I have not had a conversation with since he went off the rails talking about
The moon landing. And then what's Kenny at? Was Kennedy? Was there a guy on the grassy knoll? Sorry, whenever I see those arguments, I'm just like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say to you at that point.
All right.
But the bifurcation comes with my love for country means that I want there to be an orderly way for people to come in, but if the orderly way isn't working, we've got to work around that, or have a sensible solution. His love for country is exhibited by nobody gets to come in, America first, which I would be
I hate that.
more supportive of.
Sorry, I hate whenever he says America first.
I would be more supportive of America first thinking if you actually supported Americans first.
Right. That's
So
that's what I was gonna say. That's why I get so infuriated by it.
if you're going to say America first and that we don't need to be sending all this money to all these foreign countries, and then you just or you're trying to cut the goddamn budget by $800 million to take it away from Americans, and you're saying, well, these illegal immigrants are getting it, when the reality is there's probably more fraud by Americans than there is by illegal immigrants who can't get it because they're not documented.
Right.
But I digress.
Well, and what's crazy is that they'll use the term illegal immigrant for people that are here legally on asylum, people that are here legally in other ways, but that aren't just like visa holding, green card holding, which eventually some of them, that's what they become. They become like.
Well, let's be honest, ICE, and certainly, we did a little short clip that we posted to YouTube, which was being suppressed with like 0 views, talking about
it's because you put ICE in the name. I swear. I actually have no idea what it would be, but
considering we have anywhere from 50 to 500 views of our other shorts,
yeah,
I can't help but think suppression. But the point I'm trying to make is, if we're talking about these horrible criminal illegal immigrants, why are we picking them up at Home Depot while they're, wanting to work? Or why are we driving onto farms and chasing them through the fields? Why are you picking them up at immigration court?
Schrodinger's immigrant, the immigrant that is somehow lazy and milking the welfare state while simultaneously stealing jobs from Americans.
They are so industrious.
That sounds like a busy ass day. I'm just saying.
How they squeeze that whole into
No, 24 hours or somehow.
I'm gonna the system in the morning, and then
And then at night, I'm going to steal somebody's job. That's.
I will say there's a woman that I know, and I'm fairly confident that she and her husband are, or if not MAGA, they're Trump supporters. And I will say she used to work at, I want to say it was not welfare, but we'll call it welfare fraud department.
Okay.
And I will give her grace. One of the things she said is they rarely caught illegal immigrants because they can't get it in the first place.
Right.
That every now and then somebody might have some fake documents, but 95, no, I think she said 99% of the time, these are full-blown Americans who are scamming the system. So, but the point being is, I think that the difference between a liberal and a conservative, or a Democrat and a Republican, is I would rather give it to 100 people knowing that 5 of them don't deserve it than take it away from 100 people because 5 are cheating the system.
Yeah, because that I feel like that in my head, it's like that goes without saying, right? You would want to make sure, especially because, yeah, and that's the America First thing. This is the argument that people were making, before the election. That people were saying like, oh, no, we don't need to give money to Ukraine because we need to be like keeping it here so we can help Americans here. And then it was like,
and why is it perfectly fine to give the billionaires tax breaks
all the time? I mean, I had this is another conversation that I had with a friend of mine that was on like the similar topic of like, there's ways that we could change the tax code to try and close loopholes, because this is the thing that I think I get a little like huffy about sometimes, because you see so many people say tax the rich. It's like, well, we have tax code that should tax the rich. They're just really good at like but let's utilizing the tax code to loopholes. They don't have to pay taxes.
I think that we are not the show to explain this.
Yeah.
There is historical precedent that when people talk about the era that they refer to with Make America Great Again, the rich were being taxed at like 70, 80%.
Yeah, that was it was 90% tax over $500,000 in the household.
And to be clear, it's not like you made $500,000, you were taxed 90% of that was tax. It was income. I mean, the ratio is what we're talking about. But we're not going to explain that. I don't want to run down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's all right. I got you.
The taxing was significantly different. And so I just think it's so many. So let's reframe. I want to reframe just for a moment. It's Father's Day, day after No King's Day. Certainly the White House is spinning what happened, that there were very few people. And I mean, I was just reading what the White House had put out about the protest yesterday. Very few, very few in attendance and whatever.
Which is so bizarre to me, because
they know that their followers don't double check.
Or no, well, and then it goes back to the thing that we were talking about, but like earlier, was like they follow from an ideological standpoint. They're not looking for the facts. They want to see what Trump says, and if Trump says that they're, and it popped in my head. It is like that 1984 saying that people use all the time. It's like the final command is to ignore what your eyes and ears are telling you and to listen to whatever it is the state says.
Okay, so that guy Russ that we were having conversations with, I'm sending him link after link of information from what I consider to be relatively unbiased sources about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And he's telling me that those are not accurate because the Department of Homeland Security website of the government is saying something completely different.
So nearly, just right here.
You're just
It's just,
yeah, I know, I know.
it's
It's
like,
like how
it's,
close can you get with
yeah,
it?
but it's like,
Well, what about
the state is saying this. Okay, well, the state said that that there wasn't a guy on the grassy knoll. No, fuck that. The state's wrong there. But this thing, they're telling the truth this time. This time, they're telling the truth.
it's kind of like the other day there was a guy named Jason. We've been friends for a long time, and I've ultimately blocked him because he had a meltdown on my page about the National Guard being brought into LA and was comparing it to when Biden would not bring the National Guard into Texas last year.
Okay. Yeah,
Right?
I had to.
Right? Because like one of these things is
It's
not.
not like the other. Oh, and I just, because I thought about this now after having said it. Yes. Okay. So for the JFK remark, right? We're talking about how this guy's he won't believe what the state says about the JFK killings. He'll believe the most conspiracy brained alt media on what they say happened. And then he for the difference is that there's a lot of third-party verification for the JFK killing as much as there is state party. Whereas what we're looking at now is state party saying things that are conflicting with third party, like all third party. I want to make sure that we're clear that it's not conspiracy brained to say like, oh, the state's lying right now. And then, well, that doesn't mean that that there was a grassy knoll shooter. I'm just trying to, I guess, articulate
And
that.
the frustration with the you have to have this
I know.
conversation.
It's just one of those things where it's like,
Frustration is, by way of example, if there was no moon landing,
oh, that's right.
let's
He
just
said there was no moon landing.
go with that, okay?
That was
Let's say
another
there
one.
was. You're literally talking about thousands of people who would be faking it, who would be in on the conspiracy. A conspiracy theory loses absolute credibility if there's more than 5 people. I mean, let's be honest. 10 people can't keep a secret.
Yeah,
But you're
at least one motherfucker in there.
Hegseth can't keep a secret.
That's the first thing about to my head. It's like, you know why? It's because they didn't have to use Signal back then.
Literally telling me that thousands, let's just say it was 999 people knew that the moon landing was fake. Really?
Yeah.
So, but if it says it, if it said it on the if Trump put it out on the website that the moon landing was fake, I guarantee I'm fucking to you that every single one of you would know who was a diehard MAGA Trump supporter because they would believe it.
And what I mean, pre-election, there were so many times where media, media political influencer personalities were bringing on like Trump supporters to just have them talk, and you would see like weird disagreements. Like you would have Trump supporters that thought the earth was flat and some that didn't, and they would disagree on that, but they both like Trump. But I always just thought it was there is niche groups in every single and like
And let me say this,
microcosm.
I've said this for a long time. Look, do I believe that there are conspiracies? Hell yes. You're going to get 5 people together in a garage to talk about how to rob the 7-Eleven. So don't tell me that there are not people in high level positions who get together in some smoky office smoking cigars, drinking their brandy or bourbon or whatever, talking about how are they going to screw over the government and steal money? I don't
Yeah.
deny that there are conspiracies, but that we would go down the rabbit hole and forget democracy.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah. Yeah. And
bottom line.
we derailed really hard, but I think it's because with Russ, it was just so bizarre that and even reading the conversations, like me reading them
Never,
in the
he never answered one of my questions.
right.
Never.
And like in the beginning, it seemed like he might be more like good faith, want to engage, have these conversations. But it's like the further that you got him to like come full circle, it's almost like
Close to the truth.
yeah,
Close. Then the weird. I mean, I never got him to answer. Like he would talk about, the courts did this or the courts didn't do that. I'm like, send me sources. I want to believe you. Or, the research has shown that the COVID vaccine didn't work. Okay, great. Send me sources. So, I mean, I think we've got to, be super clear in these moments.
just so sorry. The COVID
Yeah.
thing. Who was who was the president that pushed it through? Who was the president during yeah. I'm sorry, what year was that again? 2020? Who's president 2020?
Wait, I know the answer. Give me a minute.
Hmm.
It's coming to me.
It's nearly there.
But let's talk real quick before we probably wrap up, because we could, just so people know, we could do this all day. One of the things that I think is really important is yesterday was great. It was a rush. I wasn't even there, and I am riding the high of watching all these videos. And I just want to tell a few stories. Like there was a nursing home, there was a retirement center that bused their people to the protest.
Oh, yeah.
And you see people on walkers, and they're carrying their signs. They taped their signs to the walkers.
It was so cool. There were people of all ages out there. I mean, it was yeah.
Well, and one of the it was heartening and sad at the same time, where there were cars honking, supporting honking, but they were filled with Hispanic people that the general consensus was they were afraid to get out and be part of it, but they wanted to support it anyway. Right. The number of white people, I want to say this, the white women in particular, let us down in the election. Now, do I still think that Harris would have lost because of machinations? Perhaps, but I will say it was exciting to me to see all the white folks out there, because people of color tend to be targeted for arrest at protests.
Right.
It just is. And so my friends of color have educated me on that. One of the blind spots of white privilege, right? You don't think of. So all the stories about yesterday, but that's not where it ends. When we talk about hopeful resistance, we do want you to be hopeful. We want you to recognize that there is cause for hope. But the other part is being resistant. Now, that means this week, Republicans ought to feel a little anxious about this turnout.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the week to call. I don't care if you're in a red state, red city, red district, red whatever. Call your representative, use 5 calls or resist bot, get you a script, figure out I think the big bullshit bill is the thing to call about.
Oh, 100%. And this is important. If you're calling about the big beautiful bill or whatever I say that mocking. I try to say that in the most mocking tone that I can fathom. You should be calling your senators. Okay, the bill is out of the House. Your House representative is no longer a factor in its passing.
Okay, that's good to know, because I forgot that, because it did pass the House.
Yeah.
I don't think it passed the Senate, not because they don't like it, but because, if I understand correctly, it doesn't cut enough.
Yeah, well, there's the holdouts right now because because no Democratic senator is going to vote for it. They need all of the Republican senators to pass it, and there are 5 holdouts right now that are unwilling to pass it because I don't think it's so much that it's not enough cuts. They don't feel like there's enough accountability to it, so they're trying to put a clause in that okay. We'll pass it preliminarily for 3 months. So we'll say we'll try it for 3 months, and then we'll come back and look. And did it have the effect that we wanted? And if it did, then we can fund it for 3 more months, and we can keep going and going and going. And there's some people that are pushing back, like, no, we're not going to do that, and I think it's because they don't want there to be any way for them to undo it, either in whole or in part, because. That's when it doesn't work, which a lot of people are like certain it won't. There'll be basically arguments like that more Republicans would start voting against it.
Okay, so you're talking about the 5 Republicans who are against it.
Yeah, like Rand Paul, I think, is like the head of that counter. I think it's Rand Paul. I always get him mixed up with his dad. And
my point, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of
sorry.
What the bill. No. I did not know these things. I took notes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. My point, though, is this is the week to call your senator and speak up against the bullshit bill, the big bullshit, because they saw the force, the unity, the fill in the blank, and they know next year midterms are coming. I know people say that elections aren't going to happen, but I can guarantee you, based on what we saw yesterday, there will be elections, and if there aren't elections, there will be a problem.
Yeah.
So this is the week, action item. So there's reason to be hopeful. Certainly yesterday was the reason. There is resistance activities involve calling your senator. We have to keep moving. Okay. 5 possible blah 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 senator. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap? Because I'm not in a hurry. I don't want to.
So for people who may not be familiar with 5 calls, we've done an episode where we show how to use it. It is I like it a lot because it's a very intuitive app. And I guess the only other part of that I wanted to say, just a reminder, that Senate offices are closed on the weekends, and they are open from, I think it's like 8 in the morning to something like 5 o'clock at night. That's Pacific? No. Eastern time? There we go.
Well, it probably depends on what, like if you're in Texas, they're in Central Time, so they're open 8 to 5 Central.
I don't know. Honestly, I think if I ever want to call and leave a voicemail, which I generally just call, I don't give a shit. But if I were to want to call and leave voicemails, I think I would have to call like 7 at night for them to be closed. And I want to say this, whenever if because I know some people, you get anxious about the idea of having to talk to a person on the phone. So just remember that you don't have to. If you do call and leave a voicemail, you just make sure you leave your full address. That's like the only part of it that I remember for certain. So these are just little details that some people, I get it. You get a little anxious, and it's a great way to still get your voice heard without having to actually talk to someone. Because that call will get recorded still.
There's a lot of people who want to resist. A, they may not know how, and B, they're like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue. I want my voice to be heard. That's an excellent point, Aaron, that people can call and leave a voice message. So here's what I looked up. The Dallas office of Texas State Senator Nathan Johnson is open from 9 to 5. Senator Bob Hall, these are state senators.
State senators, yeah.
Okay. So your point is that they're
if you look up like Senate office hours, like U.S. Senate office hours, because they all work in the same building. Then
they don't have state offices.
So okay, no, so they do have so like for Texas, it's
Oh,
Cruz
I see
and
what you're saying.
yes, for
I see what you're saying.
yeah, because they're in session right now, right? So they're in D.C. and they're working in their offices in D.C. and it's all in the Capitol building.
7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m.
There you go.
The Senate office buildings are open from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay,
And so that would be DC time, which is Eastern.
right.
That's what you're trying to say.
Yes.
You've got to work with the old
It's
people.
all right. I just I wanted to articulate that, and I do want to say whenever you call, that it's you don't get on the phone with your rep. Okay, like I've never spoken
Now
over the
I'm going
phone.
to. I have had several people tell me that they've actually spoken to their rep. One
Oh.
person said that their rep was an asshole to them.
Oh, I would not be
So
surprised.
So if you are anxious about now, if you call and one of the interns answers, 9 times out of 10, they're just trying to get through
Yes.
and in. So don't be mean. And if you're scared, they're probably just equally as
Yeah, they're
nervous.
probably nervous as hell.
Now, if your senator is ugly to you, just hang up and call back at night or on the weekend and leave your voice message. They have to record it. You don't
Oh
have
man,
to.
I wish I got to talk to mine. Sorry,
I know you do.
my face is turning red. I was like, oh man, if I got Robert Williams on the phone, woo!
You called that one day that you called on the show.
Oh
Like,
man,
and called to demand
yeah.
that you. And then you keep getting these bullshit letters from his office.
I do. I keep getting. Actually, I'm not going to pull it out because I have a thread on it. Because it has my address. But like, yeah, he sends me these letters. Like when I called about the bill while it was still in the House, he sends me a letter. He goes, this bill is gonna lower the deficit and it's gonna improve the cost of living. I'm like, dude, you can eat my entire ass.
It's totally gonna. Whatever. Here's the thing. Resistance is not futile. Resistance is critical to our mental health, I think. And so if you're here, you're watching the show, thank you. We appreciate it. If you have ideas about what you want us to talk about or something you want us to cover, hell, we even interview people sometimes. So you just let us know what you think, unless you're going to be ugly, and then we're like, fuck off. But the rest of you, we want to know what you think.
Yeah,
Of
this
course,
is not
Aaron,
this is not a debate podcast. Okay. If you want to debate with us, you can do it on Threads or
right.
or something, or bring us on your show. We're not gonna debate you on here.
I'm not gonna debate you here. So anyway, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to tell you, just a little backstory for those of you who maybe are tuning in kind of late. Aaron and I have had these conversations for probably the past year or so, and we just decided a few months ago, one of our forms of resistance is to record our weekly conversations, although we have quite a few in between these shows.
Yes. We talk a lot during the week, and even if it's not on call, we definitely.
Like, can you believe that shit?
Yeah. Mom is really good with like voice messages, which is if you guys didn't know, I think it's super. I don't use them yet, but I probably will at some point. It's like a super convenient way where you can basically text, but you can talk, and then send the message. Because calling, as much as we like to say, well, why don't you just call each other? We do call each other, but if we call each other, we'll never get off the fucking phone. So we've decided.
Not just that. I mean, the beauty of, like, I will record a voice message and send it to you. You can listen when it's convenient. That's the whole point of messaging, is I don't have to listen to it right now. If I'm in the middle of dinner, or if I'm in the middle of a meeting, or I'm out shopping, or you who still have a day job.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, but we just decided to record these as our form of resistance. So we're glad you're here. Appreciate you all joining in. And until we get together again, bye for now.
Recording stopped.